Good morning, Miss Fix. And how are you? Good? That's great. Oh, how am I? Utterly disgusted. Because tell me why the documentary that I decided to watch, called Our Father, was literally so horrific. Now I know when someone's like, what's your favorite horror movie? It's gonna be the documentary Our Father. Because what do you mean that women back in the 80s and 90s that were having fertility problems with their husbands went to this fertility doctor, Dr. Klein, and was like, hey, I need help getting pregnant. And he's like, okay, I got you a donor. And the women are like, oh, does it look like my father? And the women are like, oh, does it look like my husband? Dr. Klein goes, oh, yes, absolutely. Let's say the husband has brown eyes. Rolling back, my light died. Let's say the husband had brown eyes, brown hair. Dr. Klein, by the way, has blue eyes, blonde hair. Guess what the baby comes out looking like? Not the husband. Anyway, what I really liked about this documentary was that they used a lot of perspectives and they really dug deep into like what every person's unique perspective was. Because at one point we meet the first sibling, Jacoba. Jacoba knew that her family did have fertility problems at one point in their lives to conceive Jacoba, but she didn't think it would result in her having 7 other half-siblings, because you're not supposed to use sperm from a specific donor that way several times, as is explained from Dr. Klein's former buddy / partner who he worked with. Especially in such a small area of Indianapolis, no. A very big no. And we also got to meet one of the people who were at the general attorney's office, one of the prosecutors, where he explained how even though some of the mothers did feel raped, and technically, morally, it was rape, legally you cannot build a case because you feel raped. Because the legal definition of rape is non-consensual penetration. But if you're laying out on a hospital bed with your legs spread open to be inseminated by a donor, and that donor just so happens to be your doctor, although yes, major malpractice of medicine and taking a patient's trust and basically demolishing it, but nonetheless, it's technically not rape. And that was my original argument when watching this. I'm like, at least he didn't rape you. And one of the mothers immediately after said, I feel like I was raped 15 times and I didn't even know it. And honestly, that's fair, because if I was having fertility problems and I wanted a kid who looked like my husband so we can raise them together, and it was my doctor who inseminated me with his sperm, no, I don't want that, no thank you. And the way Dr. Klein would get these sperm samples from himself was that as the patient was changing to get into the hospital gown, to lay there with their legs spread open, he was going into his office and ejaculating, masturbating. So you can get that sample and then go back into the patient's room and be like, here's the donor sperm. Okay, buddy. Oh, and that is mostly what I didn't like. Well, what I didn't like, I mean, I didn't like the facts of it. That really made me mad, but also, it wasn't really what the documentary did. It was how the justice system was, because at some point they were able to prosecute Dr. Klein by saying, oh, he lied to the state, because they at least tried to prosecute him for something. And when the General's Attorney Office, after receiving the complaint from Jacoba, went to Dr. Klein and was like, hey, did you use the donor sperm more than like 3 times or 7 times? More than 7 times? He went, nah, I didn't use it more than like 15 times. Sparingly. We used it sparingly. May I remind you that at the end of this documentary, it explicitly says, black screen, text, and everything. There are 94 Klein siblings and counting. 94? Brother, that's gonna be bigger than like a medieval village. Wait, let me Google. 20 to 1,000 people. So it's in that range. Nonetheless, what I learned was that I will never trust a man gynecologist ever in my life. Never. What I wish they had done differently. I feel like they did it pretty perfectly. It was so impactful. We got a lot of words from Jacoba. I think what I wish they did was show us all the siblings, like how many people there were, because I'm pretty sure if you line them all up, you would be like, oh, that's not good. Or I wish they talked to one of the people who actually were like fond of Dr. Klein, because Dr. Klein was a holy man in the church. He was an elder, and during the prosecution, a lot of people came forward and were like, Dr. Klein wouldn't do that. He's a saint. You don't know a man until he does stuff like this, low key. So I really wish we actually got that perspective, because we got a lot of perspectives from the siblings, because they were really like, why did he do it? Why did he do it? Why did he do it? And I really want to meet one of the non-believers who are like, there's no way, even with all the evidence. They were framed, it's not true. Even when they took Dr. Klein's DNA and they matched it to I think around the time there was like 30 siblings. Bruh, there was a 9999987 chance that he was the father. I mean, there's still a chance he isn't. Nonetheless, I really wish we did get to hear from one of the people that were so fond of Dr. Klein. And actually, we kind of did get a perspective on this, but it was one of his old buddies and his wife. But they were victims of the same thing, where they were having fertility issues. They went to Dr. Klein, and lo and behold, another Klein half sibling. That was just great. So amazing. Totally. The various perspectives that were represented were the siblings. We didn't get to hear from Dr. Klein personally. I don't know if he is alive. But Jacoba did actually record some of their conversations. So technically we did get to hear from him. We also got the prosecutor. We got the parents' POV. Well, their perspective, not really their point of view, but their perspective. I really wish we got the judge's perspective, because the judge didn't give Dr. Klein jail time. Basically, he gave him a $500 fine and the 2 felonies on his record, and that was it. You're off the hook. You're off the hook. I can't really blame the judge, because if we're talking about legally, it's a very moral gray area, and the justice system is usually, it's so much easier when it's just black and white. But when you're in that specific gray area, it is so hard to rule out a punishment, especially when the prosecution is involved around Dr. Klein lying to the state, which, although is a felony and bad, and you can get jail time for that, it really doesn't bring any closure to the victims. I will never trust a male gynecologist, and the documentary was really cool. It was very informative. I was yelling the entire time I was watching it. I'm like, oh, hell no, not this again. It was bad. Dr. Klein was like supposedly in a cult. And since all these kids were blue eyes, blonde hair, Jacoba literally stated that I feel like I'm part of a like perfect Aryan race, with pure disgust on her face, because that was horrifying to her. Because apparently the cult's whole thing was like, we need to protect the white race, we need to spread our legacy, blah 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 blah. Okay.